So the first thing you need to think about when you want to hire somebody is where do you go to find them, right? Where do you hire somebody? Well, there's many different places. Obviously, one of the ways too is Facebook groups, right? But the three main things and three main websites that I utilize and that I've known about are Fiverr.com, Upwork.com, and onlinejobs.ph. Now, I will say that Upwork.com has great people that you can hire for all sorts of jobs, although they are a little bit more expensive because it tends to be geared towards people that are a little bit more professional, and so the rates are a little bit higher. You can explore this if you want, and it doesn't matter if you pick this, if you pick onlinejobs.ph, or you pick Fiverr, or you pick Facebook, and just use Facebook groups from somebody that you know or you talk to. The same strategy that I'm going to talk about here still applies to all of these, although since Upwork is a little bit more professional geared and since it's a little bit more, expensive, we're going to skip this one for now. Now, same thing with onlinejobs.ph. This is one where you can actually find relatively great job. You can actually find relatively great hires for relatively cheap and good. You can interview them. You can go through the process of hiring, different people, getting, a bunch of people to apply to your job and then kind of picking out the best candidate for you. Although you do need to sign up and pay for onlinejobs.ph at least for 1 month so that you can go through the process of posting a job and actually hiring somebody. Okay. So there's nothing wrong with this. I've used this in the past. I don't use it now currently, although you can. It works great. Highly recommended if you want to go this route. I think it's relatively cheap. It's like 40 or $50 a month. So right here, you're going to need to go with the pro version. So $70 a month, you can post a job, you can approve somebody, you can interview them, obviously, and then you can pay them using this, or you can even bring them off the platform yourself and then cancel, right? So it's only $70 pretty much to connect you with Filipino virtual assistants that can really help you. Their rates are relatively good, they're relatively cheap, and you can hire pretty much anybody for that amount. And the people from the Philippines, they have a proponents to be virtual assistants and actually go through these e-commerce jobs because it's one of the best jobs that you can have there. So it's a highly sought after job there. It's affordable for somebody like you most of the time because the cost of living there is so cheap. The wage that you can give them, goes a long way in their country and is a good wage for them, but it's still something where you can pay them and, still keep your margins intact and it's not going to be that much. So I highly recommend this site, although it's still not my favorite. I personally like Fiverr. You can find a number of jobs on Fiverr. So there's a bunch of different things that I like to do. But what I like to do essentially is I'll go to Fiverr. I'll hire somebody for an e-commerce listing job because that's pretty much the base of what gets in there. So as we've always talked about, like when you're listing anything. So for example, let's say that we listed this yarn thing, right? Well, they don't need to really do anything with this. All they really need to do is they need to know how to click a button and then go through the process of actually listing a product on whatever site that I have them up. And I also have tutorials on all of this stuff. So there's a simple onboarding process for anybody that I hire. So all they literally need to do, it's super basic, is they need to figure out how to click the button, how to go through the process that I've laid out for them in the tutorial that's like 10 minutes long, and then submit that listing. So it's very, very easy to list. And for that reason, that's the entry level job that I bring somebody in for as a lister, because you can mess listing up. It's not that big of a deal. But if you mess order fulfillment up, if you mess tracking numbers up, if you mess, customer service up, dealing with customers, those are a little bit more high risk things and things that you're going to want to build the trust up with somebody first. Pretty much anybody can list, right? Because all you're doing is clicking a button and the software is doing 90 to 95% of the work for you. They just have to verify a few things. So what I'll typically do, doesn't matter if you're using Upwork, it doesn't matter if you're using onlinejobs.ph, it doesn't matter if you're using somebody in a Facebook group or somebody that you know personally, it's the same thing, right? You want to bring them on as a lister because that's the most low risk job, that's the easiest. Test them out, right? You want to figure out if they're a good employee. Are they a good worker? Do they solve their own problems? Are they going to be reliable, right? Dependability is a main thing that I look for, right? And there's a number of other things that I look for, but this is the entry level job, right? So can they do the bare minimum? And then obviously as you build the trust with them listing, you can give them more tasks and kind of, turn them into an order processor or turn them into a customer service rep or turn them into like a jack of all trades that does a bunch of these things. But the bare minimum that you bring them in is listing because that's the simplest. And like I said, it's the lowest risk, right? So what I'm going to do is let's go like Facebook Marketplace, right? And you can just do like e-commerce. You can search like e-commerce. It doesn't have to be somebody that lists Facebook Marketplace, but obviously if you search for a job that's specific to that, well, then obviously you can find somebody that has at least somewhat experience already. So you kind of rely that you don't need to train them as much. Now, sometimes I do like to bring people on that don't necessarily know what Facebook Marketplace is, or Facebook Shops is, or Amazon is, or whatever, because then they're kind of new and I can train them my way, right? And I'm going to show you in other tutorials of, all the different VA tutorials that I have up. So for example, like if we go into VA tutorials, all of these right here are all tutorials that I have to onboard my VAs, right? And you'll see right here, like this one's 8 minutes long. This one is 15 minutes long, right? And there's a bunch of different tutorials, but like I said, the main one that I usually give them is how to copy products to Facebook Marketplace with ZDrop, right? It's 20 minutes long. It doesn't have to be that long. Yours can be super fast. I just hit it home to make sure that they understand the thing. But whether you choose somebody that has a little bit of e-commerce experience or somebody specific that understands Facebook Marketplace, all you're essentially doing is these sites are connecting you with people that are willing to do these jobs, right? So then I'll test them for a little bit using Fiverr, okay? So I'll pay them directly through Fiverr. And you can see just how many orders I've actually done with this. Well, let me pull up another Fiverr thing just to show you. I don't want to lose the search, even though I can just search it again really fast. If I pull up all my orders, and I haven't, obviously, keep in mind, I haven't brought anybody on in a while because I have 3 guys that work for me full time, and I haven't needed to pretty much do anything else with that, but like be your virtual assistant. And then if we load more, list products to Facebook Marketplace. List products to Facebook Marketplace. So these are all the same guy pretty much. And then I ended up trusting him, bringing him off. Same thing with this. List Facebook products to Marketplace, right? So I'm not just telling you to do this. I literally do this myself. And I bring people on. I build the trust with them on the Fiverr platform where Fiverr acts as the middleman. So for example, in the beginning, if they're not doing what they say they're going to do, or they're not doing it correctly, then I'm not out the money for a job that they didn't do. So I build the trust with them on the Fiverr platform. And then eventually when they actually go to, when I actually decide, okay, this person's good, I want to bring them on full time, I'll bring them off platform, and I can still pay them roughly $5 or a little bit less per hour, or I can pay them by listing, however you want to set it up. And the reason being is they're going to be willing to do that because they're going to get the same amount of money roughly. They're even going to get more money because Fiverr's going to take a cut of their profit. So for example, this guy right here has 49 listings. He's clearly got, he's done a decent job. He starts at $5, okay? So 20 products to list for $5. Typically, you're going to want to find somebody that lists a little bit more than that or has like a $5 hourly rate. But let's just pretend that this guy was a $5 hourly rate, for example. So what we would do is we'd bring him off the platform and we'd offer him $5 an hour, because why would he want to do that when he can make $5 on Fiverr? Well, Fiverr is going to hold his money for like 2 weeks after the transaction to make sure that it's fine, right? They're also going to take their cut. So he's not going to make $5. He's going to make maybe $3.50 or $4 2 weeks later. Instead, he can make $5 directly and get paid every single week, or get paid right away, however you want to set it up. Now, I pay my VAs every single Friday. I keep track of what they do in their entirety every single week, and then I pay them out every Friday. You can work it however you want to do that, but that's my typical approach. So that's how I find people. I use Fiverr to basically audition people. Then I send them the video, right? I actually pay them to train them, right? So for example, if they charge $5 an hour, like, we like this example, right? I would pay them probably like $1 or $2 in tip after that, if the video was depending on how long the video was. So that video that I was going to send them, like I said, was 20 minutes. I would pay them for 20 minutes. So I would take a third, because 20 minutes is a third of an hour. I would buy the $5 gig. I would send them the video, and I would tell them that I'd probably tip them another few dollars to watch the video after they're done, right? So that's basically how I do it. And then depending on how fast I build trust with them, how well of a job they do, I might either bring them on, right? So I'll bring them off the platform, or I'll just pick somebody else and audition somebody else if I think that they're not doing a very good job, all right? So the way that I do it, because like we've said in other videos, I use Splashtop, so they just log into my computer. The way that I'll bring them off Fiverr, I don't recommend messaging them on the platform because Fiverr looks through messages. It's just not a safe way to do it. And obviously you don't want to get them in trouble. It's not really that big of a deal for you as a buyer because you can just set up a different buyer account. But for them as a seller, you don't want to screw their gig over. So I wouldn't message them on the platform. What I like to do is I'll just put a Word document up because they sign into my computer to list. And then I'll put a message here that's like, hey, and I'll literally ask them like, hey, do you have a WhatsApp, or leave your WhatsApp, or do you have a WhatsApp? Do you have an email? And then I'll connect with them that way. And then I'll go back and I'll message them on WhatsApp, or I'll email them, and we'll sort out a price, see if they're interested in going off platform. Everybody that I've talked to is interested in going directly, with the payments and directly off platform. You might run into somebody that isn't, and that's fine. Just move on to somebody else. But that's my process for auditioning and finding people to bring on as virtual assistants. And then, like I said, I bring them on full time. I pay them full time, and they work with me directly full time.